situation worsened because of the counties becoming so many, 7 counties instead, say, of 8. And the reason we have 47 counties to manage those groups, I'm telling you that, everybody wants their county so they can control their local community, which adds up now towards the coalitions that politicians need to win elections. Now, this becomes a major expenditure in the past, together with the public service, mirrored in the same way that if you employ people in the public service, you employ your own people in order that you get the down ballot of those people then telling their villagers to vote for you because you give them national jobs. So this whole tribal conundrum that we have is becoming a cancer towards our democracy, because in satisfying this appetite of tribal greed and tribal insatiable greed, we have to raid the purse of the nation to the extent that it becomes unreasonable and unmanageable. And then therefore, one of the things that excited me about coming together around the Reject Finance 2024 was the Jay-Z people were not tribal, they were leaderless, they were a group of people who were tied together with an objective and an ideal. If that can remain the case, we can break down the barriers of ethnic and regional blocks, we can begin actually journey of talking about a Kenyan nation that can be able to challenge that political class. And until we are able perhaps to cross that barrier that Dr. was talking about, a lot of the beginning of the Tanzanian nation, we will not be able to effectively challenge the ruling class in Kenya. I would just like to say that at the beginning of this conversation.
Thank you so much, Tony. I have 2 questions for you, but I think I'll allow some speakers to give their comments first. Maybe let's start with Peter. I see you're on the line.
Yes. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
You're loud and clear. Just give your 2-minute submission, please.
Thank you so much. Mina tuma rambirambi kwa Gen Z wenye walikufa kwa maandamano. Secondly, mimi natokaga Mlimani huko Nyamira, lakini nakaa Houston, Texas. So hata mimi Sakayo hapo hapa Texas, because I support a lot of people back home by 3-4 jobs 7 days a week. So we are losing both ways. Huyo mjamaa amefanya maisha ngumu hapa na amefanya maisha ngumu hapa. So Tony Gashoka, if you can hear me, me ni Gen Z na tumechoka. We don't need people who are so learned. We don't need people who know too much. We just need people who can work with us. Ukiangalia kama polisi, AP, unapata Mkarenjini mwenye amechukia Mkisi, ako Kisi town. So those people, they are terrorizing people using tribal lines to work on a public jobs. So unapata kama tuseme kama ni Ukambani, we have 100 APs. 50 of them is from one tribe. You know, this tribe can't stand up because these people are against them. They have weapons. So the only thing we need to start looking at, watu wamenyakua mashamba hapo, so that's why you see people are migrating to Saudi Arabia, UK, ukiona watu, they are migrating, and those who are migrating are the most needed people back there who can move our country forward. Lakini ukiona wengi wao ni madaktari, US, UK madaktari, those are the brains we need. The brains which are occupying the offices, ni wale from France, wanataka, from UK, wanataka. And we are not going to win this fight if we still have 4 military bases in our country. These are people who mean serious corrupt business. You don't know what they are there for, what they do, you don't know. So we are being robbed daytime. So ile kitu mimi nasema, thank you so much for giving me time, and the first time I speak in a group of media. Mimi naitwa Peter Kimwei, and I wish General Z the best, and we are winning the war. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my brother, all the way in Texas. Very powerful, your submissions. I think I'll invite the real Joe to speak next.
Thank you very much, Mumbi, for giving me the mic. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you. So, first of all, to talk about the invitation to reject after the political class group, number one, for me, I think we should have never stopped rejecting. We were being played from the onset. So we should have never stopped rejecting. We should have always rejected. And therefore, we continue rejecting. But I would like to draw our attention to a few things. In the movement, I don't know, I can hear some noise in the mic, I don't know.
I've muted. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, I want to draw our attention to a few things. The Gen Z movement started with the initial concept of leaderless, partyless, and things like that, tribeless. Most importantly, tribeless. And right now, I think to the stage that we are going, and when it comes to the next phase of rejecting and things like that, we have now to think about regrouping properly and having a certain type of leadership. Why do I say this? And I know some might be castigated sometimes for this. And I know some people don't really go in line with this opinion. But I say this because at this stage that we've reached, we have done well in terms of the information war. We are winning the information war. The government has not been able to beat us when it comes to fighting us in the sense of information. We are winning the information war. But what we are not winning the war of public opinion. By public opinion, in terms of populism, okay? Not in terms of the civic education and things like that. In terms of populism, we have to find a way of starting to engage in populist politics as well, as a movement. It is not just about showcasing all the dirt. The government is dirty from the onset. This government has actually dragged our laws on mud from every chapter, from the preamble to the everything. And therefore, we should also start playing the populist politics. And that is where at some point, we might be forced to engage politicians. Again, this is an opinion that I know might not be welcomed by so many, but at some point, we must engage politicians. But if so, at that point, we must also be able to ask ourselves very critical questions. And I'm going to pose those critical questions here. Number one, these politicians we are engaging with, what are their backgrounds? And some of the politicians I've seen supporting the movement, for example, Eugene, the last space we were with Eugene and Tony Gashoka was speaking actually the same language, but Eugene was in Uhuru's regime. Uhuru is the 9 trillion debt. We are talking about Uhuru. Okay? He was in Uhuru regime. We need to also be able to ask these politicians very vital questions, because the problem that we've had in our political system, and this is what we want to eradicate, and that's why we still have Moi in power. The people who fought Moi and now are Moi. Moi is dead, but Moi is still in power. And that's what we want to eradicate once and for all. And if we go and engage politicians who are part of the problems that we are currently fighting, for example, the concept of now odious debt, some of whom were in Uhuru's regime, right now they are not in government, and we join them just because of the mere fact that they're speaking the same language with us. We need to ask ourselves critical questions before we engage them or when we are engaging them. Okay? We need to ask ourselves very critical questions. What are they bringing to the... And therefore...
Joe, you need to land. You need to land.
Thank you. And therefore, as we ask this...
Oh, you've muted your own mic. Real Joe, you've disconnected. Bwana Kigame, we might consider inviting politicians. You try to vie to be the president of Kenya. That thin line of someone who is compassionate, not just passionate, but wants values in Kenya. You've heard all the comments from the speakers before who've spoken after you. Can you come back in and weigh in on what's going on?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is we have no shortage of knowledge and information. We have the history, some of it correct, some of it wrong. For example, we can't say that Kenyatta Senior really gave us independence. Kenyatta betrayed us and sold us to the British. And so we did not get full independence. Even when we come to the Kibaki era, we know that we got a good deal in an economist, and Kibaki did his job well to bring Kenya to a place where we can talk about economic recovery. Kibaki's era was, ripped with policing. People like Githongo's lives were at stake because they exposed the rot in Kibaki's government. There was betrayal. You sign agreements that are not honored. That's why ODM bolted out. So you had the post-election violence. You had the disputed election that had Kivuitu, in fact, lose his life eventually because of, depression and all of that. So you can't say that we got the deal. In fact, when Kenyatta came to office, he said that we had three enemies. That is poverty, ignorance, and disease. Unfortunately, we still have those right now. And we have been added two more on the minimum. We've been added corruption and impunity in one box. And then we have also been added debt. Public debt, money borrowed in our name without our permission. And so we have five main problems now to deal with. And so Uhuru and Ruto, let's just call it the Uhuruto regime that has been in place for now about 12 years, comes into power on the basis of escaping ICC. Now, that's the uniting factor. Now, we don't talk much about how
When we seem to be losing you.
them. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so Uhuru and Ruto came to power once again in a rogue way because they united to evade the rule of law. They were fleeing the ICC. And so for anyone to, get these people out, we would have to regroup. But yes, I agree with those who say we need a fresh start. People who have not been in government but have a reputation of succeeding in other places and or are professionals of character. That's why I insist on character-driven leadership. Now, for where we are, I think there is something we must not forget, especially as those wanting the fourth liberation. I call it the fourth because the Constitution of 2010 becomes our third. And so this particular economic liberation, there are things we must never forget. Number one, we have lost lives right from independence. People like JM, people like Ouko, people like Muge have been killed because people wanted power. People like Matiba and Rubia were tortured. My friend Bidan Bugwa, and the rest were traumatized. And people have suffered, Musando and the rest. And it is actually very insulting to me, and we must never lose sight of this, that the government, for example, is ready to sanitize their property in the Kware killings. I mean, this entire thing about the police being able to release those guys to leave jail is a hoax. And so instead of actually spending money and time dealing with the missing persons and the abductions. I mean, Kenyans have been abducted. If you criticize this government, you get abducted. Some of my team members have been abducted. I've sometimes had to hide. I mean, you all know I'm a very easy target, but I've had to hide because this government is vicious. If you don't agree with them, if you challenge them, you could die. And so, is this what we fought for? This is not independence. And I don't think we are angry enough to realize that a lot of young people last year in the demonstrations and this year, even families that don't know where their loved ones are, you know, it's like dancing on the graves of people and just saying we'll do whatever we want. Impunity cannot be allowed. So I'll just say this. Besides regrouping, and some kind of regrouping is critical, we really must pick up the pieces. The issue of reintroducing some of those clauses in the finance bill is just a smokescreen. The real thing is about buying time to see what else you can do. And Gen Zs, I don't think social media is the only place to regroup, because when we announce everything we want to do on social media, of course they will come for us, and or they'll scatter or just introduce that brute force. So we need to find another way of communicating our plans. Even guerrilla warfare is really guerrilla because the enemy does not know when you'll pounce. But I challenge those of you that are union leaders or no union leaders that are suffering, the hoteliers, you know, the teachers, the doctors, the nurses, even the airport workers and so on. Dear me, let's talk about how we can come together and, you know, have another language that we can talk. I really think that we must really stop playing games with the lives of people, because the lives of people are sacrosanct. And I must say that especially for the professionals and the middle class, we may treat the Gen Zs as victims, but sooner or later, there will be something much worse than the slashing of your payslip. If you talk in the office against this government, they'll come for you. If you post something on social media that is against the government, they'll come for you. So we have to come to a point where we say we unite or stay divided and perish. And so every effort, and I know it is harder for leaders or those that want to be in office to come together because of egoism and all of that, I think we must really bury our differences and accept to lose in order to gain some of the things. But coming together, we really must. Divide and rule is real.
When your Tony's hand has been up, probably he wants to ask you a question. So I'll let Tony come in. Okay. Although he's reconnecting. 1 minute to see his hand is. Oh, now I don't see him.
Yeah, I saw his hand. He was up. I loved what Ruben said, and I definitely feel like the regrouping is important on all levels, but it's happening very organically. In terms of people doing civic education, people translating certain information to their mother tongues and communicating that information to those of us who may not have access.
Yeah, so Ruben, give me a minute to see if Tony will come back on, and let's give Mwafaka a minute for that gap between. Maybe there's something you said he really wants to respond to. Mwafaka.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Caleb. I'm from Thika. You know, I was in protest, and I was protesting against bad government. And thank you, Mobi, for giving me this chance. I want to tell you something. I want to tell everybody that it's not free, because if you go to protest, you are treated like a terrorist. The police are checking you over every time. Like, you're not free. I know what you are only carrying is a phone, maybe underwater. You get adapted. You know. Something else is about jobs in Kenya. When you go to the county government, you will find a lot of job vacancies, and then they don't hire. They stopped hiring. Another thing is like I'm a student in Thika, and you will find that people are suffering depressions. People are killing themselves about depressions. It's a problem now because of the high living standard. And thank you.
Thank you, Mwafaka. Baraka, you are talking and then Tony is back. Tony, I think you want to respond to something, so the mic is yours. Then you can speak after Kigame.
Yes, I don't know whether Mr. Kagame was talking about some of the things I said because he was not accurate. And I think it's good to listen to what I said. I never said Kenyatta was good. I never said Kibaki was good. By the way, when Bidan Bugwa was jailed, I was jailed longer than him for contempt of court, and he is my friend. I wanted to say that the issue I was raising was that we are a young democracy, and that Kenya has gone through difficult times over time, that this revolution of the Gen Z should be looked at in the context of history, that there has been times which have been unwelcome, but we have gone through as a country. And I said the first one was Kenyatta, and the other one led to the 2010 Constitution. Imperfect as they were, there were moments in this country's history. And I'm just saying that the young people are dealing with a current problem, enormous it is, but they will overcome and they will triumph over it. But there are barriers that exist that they should be aware of. So as they are able to organize and fight, they need to realize that it's okay to be theoretical and say, we just want Ruto to go on the following. But I'm saying unless they are organized in a certain way, the political architecture in Kenya has been rigged. So it makes it difficult for people to achieve that goal. Just like it's difficult for women to get elected. Just like it's difficult for minorities to win the presidency, simply because of the 50+1 rule. And therefore, to become a serious presidential candidate, you would need to get certain things in ducks in a row in order to be able to fight. I'm raising that issue because we need to give hope to this generation that is younger than us. And some of these forums are also educational. I was listening earlier in your spaces when you were talking about civic education and the need to let the younger people, learn from us and learn from history, some of the things that they have to overcome. None of them are not impossible to overcome, but they need to know that those barriers exist. So I'm just encouraging the young people to organize, to group, but also to understand that they're united when they are big, when they are a movement, when they are an organization, they can be able to overtake or overrun the barriers that have been elected by the political class. And then coming to the issue of the Finance Bill 2024 and the way in which it had been defeated and the way it has come back. It has come back because Ruto has reorganized himself politically, and he feels now able to withstand any more demonstrations. He's feeling more emboldened because of Odinga's adventures to him. And that is what must be considered as we now talk about rejecting this bill again. One must wonder if Ruto was this vicious when the opposition was the way it was before, how much more vicious will he be now that there is little political, resistance? And then how would it be best to handle those demonstrations and try and avoid the government coming hard on the people? I'm just raising those concerns for discussion. I am not promoting Kibaki nor Kenyatta as heroes of this nation. I'm saying that they lived through their moments, and Kenyans overcame both Kenyatta and Kibaki as they must now overcome Zakayo.
Okay, Asante TG. Ruben, you are saying the regrouping that is going on is around tribal lines. You had the courage, knowing that to say you represent yourself to the Kenyans. What's next for Kenyans?
So I missed part of what you said, but I need to tell TG that I'm not saying.
Sorry, Ruben, your network is buffing.
Yeah, it looks we've lost him. Maybe we bring him back and we bring
Baraka.
Okay.
Okay, I've been having connectivity issues on my end. Ruben?
Yeah, but,
can you hear me now?
Ruben, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying, I'm not saying that TG's view of Kenya's history is warped or that his call towards, a more contextualized approach to
Oh, Ruben, we've lost you again.
I think he can drop off and then come back on. Maybe that would make it much better. Because been having similar issues.
Yes, Ruben, kindly get off the space, leave the space, and come back again. I'll give you the mic. Baraka, you are presenting before you also appear, so go ahead.
Yes. No need to, but we face, especially as young people. You'll be surprised. Okay, I was particularly surprised on, as much as we're talking about tribalism, there's also something called clanism. And even in the grassroots, there is also dynasties. There's somebody who has been in politics, the parents been in politics, and the children also in politics. The brother is in politics, the sisters in politics. Something that to most of us who have not been actively in politics in the past, we're actually facing them, and it is a rude realization that these things are embedded in people, and sometimes in people that you didn't expect it will be embedded in them, people who you've studied with in universities and colleges, and people you have grown up with, and you never thought it was something, but they hold tightly to the idea of clan. And obviously, we nationwide we know the tribal aspect of it. Let me go back to the point I was making before I had connectivity issues on my end. that is in terms of having a people centered, and I think this I will have spoken to Kagame so that in his hearing, but in as much as he is talking about his candidature, in as much as that he's fronting himself to us as the electorate, it is important that he empowers other people who we get that Kagame has a support base, and that's what TG has actually mentioned, and I think we have to wake up to that realization why we need to start banding together. We need to get that 50% plus one. We need to get that 24 counties in the pocket. And more importantly, we need to make sure that right now we start making inroads even in the by-elections which are coming up, because the politicians are actually feeling fairly certain that they will win in Ogunja and in Banisa, which is in northeastern province. They're fairly certain that nobody is there to challenge them, and they will go through and they'll continue making the bills which they're making, which are punitive. So it is important that we start making those inroads at this moment. I'll repeat what I just said so that Kagame can actually hear it. In regards to your candidature going into the future, and I think I've actually texted you this privately, but I want to make it public so that everybody can hear this. No Gen Z is going to be president in 2027, and very, very few millennials have the capacity to be president in 2027. I think the upper age group of them are the ones who have a chance, and I think nobody has come in that age group to become a serious contender. What we are seeing in everybody who is making, I'll say, quote unquote, noise on being presidential candidates, Kina Jimmy, Kalonzo, and everybody else, we fail to understand that we need to make the Gen Z movement central to the ambitions that we have going into the future. We need to make them, and as much as you may be fronting yourself for candidate in 2027, that you have the support of the people that you have empowered, the people who went to occupy parliament, people who have been in the streets, people when you were at central police stations, the young men who were being beaten at the back there and screaming, when you were there, people who have made that sacrifice, who do not have the monies. Right now, many of them want to recall their MPs, but they do not have that 30,000 Kenya shillings or the means by which they can actually recall their MPs. Go around and find them, hold their hands in wherever they are in Central, and try to help them and try to sensitize people there so that they can support them. That's how we're going to move forward together. We're not going to sit back and be talking on Twitter and be talking amongst ourselves that in 2027 or earlier, if by some stroke of or something will happen. No, it's up to us to take those reins in our hands. Look at what constitutional means we have. We can recall MPs. How do we exercise it? How do we make sure? We've seen Kawir Mwangaza being impeached. How do we exercise those avenues so that we can start cleaning up our country at the moment? Because 2027 is 3 years away, and we all know in politics 3 years is a long time. A lot of things could happen. A lot of evil things could happen. That's very important to note.
Thank you, Baraka. Thank you very much. I think Ruben can respond to that. You've given leakage. Ruben, I hope you this time.
Yeah, so let me begin by saying it's not like I disagree with what TG was saying. I just think that if we took the long shot of having like a long-term approach to this particular transition, then we will actually take the air off the Gen-Zs, where, some of the millennials and, the boomers telling the young people that they're leaders of tomorrow. I totally disagree with that because, the TGs and the Tobinya Manyaras and the Shikukus and the Odingas that made a difference did so when they were young. And so the young people need to organize and actually formulate a very strong force in a particular movement that can now engage government. I think that is critical. Now, the second thing I'll say is there is often the assumption that if you've never been in government in this country, that you don't know about government, or that you do not have the kind of experience that it takes to run for public office. That's what I've been told for so long. I mean, I ran for Vihiga gubernatorial seat in 2013 when the devolution was new. I was told, that you can't run a county and so on. And nobody had run the county at that point. There was no experience of running a county. It was really about your ideology and how you organize. Now, in 2022, I was told you don't have the experience to be able to mount a presidential candidature or lead a country. And I retort and say, actually, if by experience we mean the kind of things our leaders have been doing, then I don't want any of that experience. Absolutely, I don't want any of that. We need to reboot this country along the issues that the Gen Zs were raising, and just knock out everyone who wants to take us back to the mold. We want a new start, and so my concern would be why the state, for example, is delaying the issuance of IDs to the young people. Why the state is playing around with IBC and reducing it to a Ruto Raila thing. They are the ones that are identifying the commissioners for IBC. So again, they can take us round and round. We will not accept that. Absolutely not. And I personally cannot stomach, a few people, probably 10 or 20 people, taking 55 million Kenyans captive. I won't take it. No, it won't happen when I'm alive. And so the other thing is this, that we have come to a point where you have those that come saying, because you are leaders, I want you, we want to be your leaders. I don't think that it should be Kigame coming to the Gen Zs and saying, follow me, I lead your movement. It is up to the Gen Zs, yes, to vet, but also to decide who to work with. I mean, they know, they can read, they have the data. So I don't think anyone should usurp that position and say, let's therefore go this direction. I think let the Gen Zs themselves decide. So, and that includes me. I don't think it's right for me to come and say, because my issues resonate well with the Gen Zs, therefore I am their candidate. No, I don't impose myself on them. It's up to them. Can Kigame represent what we stand for? And just for the record, and I hope that everyone on the space tonight can take this home, that those who actually don't speak it, but they say, someone like Kigame cannot lead a country. How will he inspect the guard of honor? How will he see this and see that? Actually, I would say, first of all, the ability to see is part of our problem in this country. Our people are seeing too much. Everything they see, they want. And secondly, I want you to go back to Delano Roosevelt in the U.S. during the Depression years. He was paralyzed waist down, but he steered America out of that crisis beautifully. It was a difficult crisis. I won't even have time to speak about Kibaki coming to office on a wheelchair, or Tim Wanyonyi being voted one of the best performers, or recently Crystal Asige being voted one of the best performing senators. Maybe there's something about vision and the place of people in our hearts, those of us that live with disability, that this country can benefit from. But that having been said, I would like to say that it is not about us. It's really about training the young people to take over leadership. And I want to say that personally, with regard to value-led leadership, I'm already recruiting several Gen Zs, and I'm having weekly sessions with them, just telling them, what does it take to run? What do you need? Because many people reduce it to money. It is not about money. Some young people have even been voted into office without money. How did Obama get into office? He didn't have all the money. So it's not about money. There's a place for money, yes, and we will not rule that out. But it's about the skills. What is government all about? What does it take to be an MCA? What do you need to know? What do you need to know about the rules that you need to be an MP in Parliament? And so it's about spending time with them and giving them hope. Because I actually want as many as possible to succeed me and take up these ideas and become the next leaders. Because we can't keep playing games with young people. No. A time has come when we must give them a place to be part of policy making, but also to organize. And I personally am going to ensure that whether I run for president or not, that we have the maximum number of Gen Zs in the next government.
Asante sana, Ruben. I think, Baraka, that answers your question. There's someone who's been waiting to speak, or Soyo. I think we are almost a few minutes to finish our show. Oseo.
Hello. Doctor, did you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, well, this is very important. It is a time that I also just want to weigh a bit. That time that the future leaders that we've always been told of, you cannot be the future leader in future. This is the time that we're supposed to be the leaders. I mean, I'm so happy to have had Raila speak today, and he says that, I'll be not too much into Kenyan politics anymore. I wish he speaks his mind. I mean, his own mind, not just to float out. Because today, Kenya could have been different if not for what they chose to happen. People died on the streets. These young men and women died in the streets because they wanted to liberate this country from the thieves, from the oppressions we are having. Believe me, you imagine of people who are poor and have been paying NHIF and they cannot go to hospitals today because the NHIF have been changed to something else after the funds been taken and used into a different kitty. I mean, who's going to be there for us? There are people out there who are suffering and they cannot even go to hospitals simply because the NHIF thing is banned and it's not working anymore. I met another old lady who was really crying in a hospital like last week ago. She wanted her to see a dentist, but her card doesn't work and she didn't even know. She went to the hospital with a card that she's been paying and then she's told, no, we are turning you back. This card is not working anymore. I felt so pain. It was so pained in my heart until I had to sort out this lady. But I mean, me with my little salary that I can't even survive with on my own, how could I be helping people even if I had that heart? There has to be an end for everything. This kind of an impunity can't continue anymore. This kind of mockery of a few people enjoying the cake of at the helm of the rest. I mean, it can't happen anymore. Thank you so much. I don't want to speak so much because I've been listening. I'd love to listen and learn more. Thank you so much. Be blessed.
Asante sana Opeyo for your patience and your kind-heartedness. Compassion is what we lack. Even as Ruben is talking about a value, I think we got so materialistic as a nation. The end justified the means. It didn't matter how you made your money. And those are the kind of people that attracted. And that's how we end up here with poor leaders. Tom Boyer, let's hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you. I hope I'm audible. Good evening, Kenyans. So
you're audible.
I want to define
some noise in the background. Okay, go on.
Yes. Well, I just want to define politics, and because the reason as to why we are here is to seek good governance in Kenya. So I'm defining good politics. The word politics has had a bad name for the longest time. So we are going for good politics. I'm defining this by speaking to two areas. Who qualifies to be a leader in Kenya? Who qualifies to be the president in Kenya? Secondly, the essence of organizing as a revolution, as a team advocating for revolution in this country. So, one who qualifies to be the president in Kenya, we believe if you be able to add your own views on that and remember it when you are voting, then we will get it right. Number one, you must be able to understand the root cause of why we are here. Why are Kenyans crying? Why are Kenya poor? So once you understand the root cause, you must be able to be determined to provide a solution. You must be able to know the strategy and how to provide that solution. You must be courageous. You must be a person of discipline. And you must be a person of moral standards and integrity. What do I mean? You must be able to kick, intentionally do anything possible to kick out foreign powers from this country. You must be able to decolonize Kenya. You must be someone of the standard of Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. So that is how I define such a leader. And also, you must not necessarily have money. Whether you have money or not, we don't care. Kenya should be able to support you regardless. Secondly, speaking to the essence of organizing, Kenyans, for us to achieve whatever we are advocating for, because it is a long journey, we must decolonize our minds. We must prick our conscience so that we be able to understand what good politics is. We erase all the kind of brainwash we've experienced as far as politics is concerned. We are going to do this by making sure that we champion and we keep on beating the drums of political and civic education. Find yourself in whichever group, because it is not necessarily possible to find all of us in one common group because of natural diversity. Find yourself in a group, and within such groups, keep educating fellow Kenyans in all your spheres. Organize yourself so that come 2027, or so that anytime we manage to kick the current regime out, then you'll be able to vote wisely and vote such kind of a leader that I have defined. Finally, towards the end, you should be able to find yourself in a political party. You should be able to present yourself as a leader. You should be able to present yourself as an independent candidate, regardless, as long as we are able to identify such a leader and unite behind that a leader. We should have a coalition of revolutionaries, not necessarily a coalition of party. You can be in a political party and a revolutionary, so that we be able to uproot the old system and we be able to stand our grounds through courage and make sure we chase away the colonizers from our country, so that our mineral resources, our agricultural land is able to serve us, so that we are able to industrialize and provide